No way.
All right, I would like to call the meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could have the students lead us, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Kristen Cambenzi,
Here.
Jennifer Ray, Jason Zadunik,
Here.
Jennifer Cliff,
Here.
Cheryl Maddox Smith,
Here.
Cassidy Thomas,
Here.
Eric Smith,
Here.
I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. One at a time.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mrs. Cliff, support by Mr. Zadunik. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Cambenzi. I would like to start by introducing Assistant Superintendent of Finance, Mr. Lampman, to present a budget amendment.
Good evening. Are you all ready for the most exciting presentation of the night?
Yay.
Look, applause. Thank you. So in your packet, you should have a copy of the budget amendment and presentation as well. So this is March 23rd. This will be the second budget amendment of the year. Coming in June with the final amendment. As you may recall, the last amendment we did was back in January, and we focused heavily on revenues at that time. Due to the late adoption of the state of Michigan budget, along with the freeze of federal funds that occurred in the fall, we didn't have a lot of time to figure out our grant plan. So that's why we're bringing our expenses to you a little bit later than we normally would during the year. In fact, speaking of grants, we still don't have our final allocation for our title funds. That application was due last Friday, so we still have not technically been awarded those funds yet, which is it's very unusual to be this far into the year and not have those federal funds allocated. But we're going to start off with the general fund, which is comprised of several different funds: our general operations, our grants, and I'm speaking to the audience. I have a big audience this evening, which is nice, and feel free to stop me along the way if anyone has questions, so do ramble. So we have our grants fund, Kaufman Auditorium, Planetarium, services we provide to Father Marquette, which is private school in Marquette. We have our retirement terminal leave, our contingency, our athletics fund, and our student activities fund that all roll up as components of our general fund. So we're going to start out with general fund revenues. So we have money invested on the district's behalf. Currently, our yield as of March 20th is 3.66%. I don't know if I'm the only one who tracks the federal interest rate changes during the year, but at the recent Fed meeting, interest rates were held stable due to the anticipation of rising inflation. So we take a look at interest earnings for the year, and we try to make course corrections during the year to see how close we were on our predictions. We had anticipated in the original budget that we're going to see some interest rate cuts during the year. We were probably a little more conservative than where we've been, but we took care of some of these course corrections with our January amendment. Looking at property taxes and other local revenues, again, we looked at property taxes as part of our January amendment. So at this point, we're not proposing any changes to property taxes. We think they're still in line with where we were in January. So other local revenue, we're reducing our other local revenue by about $75,000 for specific contributions that we received that we anticipate deferring into next year's budget. So we thought it prudent to make a reduction at this point in time. No changes to our inter-district revenue. Looking at our state aid. So we get a monthly state aid allocation from the state of Michigan based off a foundation per pupil of $10,050. So from January, our state aid membership increased by 3.49 FTE, which is just a slight increase, 0.11%. So our FTE has been stable since January. One of the big changes that occurred on our state aid report is our MIPSR's UAL that reduced $232,000. And then our normal MIPSR's cost offset increased $108,000. Looking at special education funds, based off what we reported for our 24-25 year, we saw an increased allocation this year in our special ed funding of $377,000. And then during our January presentation, we had a discussion about the Great Start Readiness Program that's being piloted through Market Algerisa. And while we have not received our funding yet, Mr. Zanunik, which I know we discussed, we do have an estimated allocation that we could include in the budget now.
Mr. Lampman, can I'm
Oh.
sorry, I typically
No.
don't interrupt.
Feel free.
I think it's worth noting that $325,890 for the GSRP pilot includes money that we would have received otherwise, since it was a JK pilot. These were our JK students already, 30 or so, by $10,000 per pupil is about $300,000 or so of the $325 we would have received anyway. Just want to clarify that.
You are correct. That is a reduction of FTE that we saw that was picked up by Marisa. So had they not picked up that FTE, we would have picked up a lion's share of that fund.
So wait, you missed that.
Certainly.
Going back, if I understand you correctly, at the non-budget person, you're just really dealing with a difference of about $26,000.
Correct. I think we were picking up about, was it about $750 if memory serves per pupil? So yes.
There are some specific categoricals within GSRP that aren't captured in this line item, but I think that sums up the.
And I didn't include a specific slide for our federal revenues, but as I mentioned, we're still waiting on receiving our final federal revenue allocations. But we did feel comfortable with an estimate, so if you look at our federal revenue line, we're looking at about a $68,000 increase to federal revenues over where we were with the original budget in original budget 25-26. So overall, we're looking at an increase to revenues of about 1.3%, $653,000. You can see graphically that our state aid revenue is our largest funding source, followed by property taxes, which would be local, and then federal, a smaller share, and then other, the smallest. So looking at the general fund expenditures, we're looking, this amendment proposes an overall decreased expenditures of 0.1%, so pretty much flat from where we were in January. Some of the biggest changes in this budget are some staffing changes that occurred, but the biggest thing is reduction of benefit costs. As I mentioned, the UAL was reduced. We saw 200-some thousand reduced on our state aid report. Well, that's kind of an in and out on our state aid report. We record the revenue, we also record the expense. So if we see a drop in our revenue, we have a corresponding drop in our expense, and it nets out to zero. So we had to reduce our expenses by about 232,000 if I remember correctly. I should keep up with my notes. So looking at the other benefits, we also saw a pretty significant decrease to the district's portion of retirement costs. We saw the state reduce our MIBSR's contribution rates by about 1.45%, all the way up to 5.75%, depending on the retirement plan, of which we have many. So that culminated in over a $900,000 reduction to our benefit costs. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to continue to work on our grant plan that we'll bring, hopefully with our final amendment. Hopefully by June, we'll have all our grant funding in place. And then we just had some various increases in our operation and maintenance accounts for some unforeseen events that would pop up during the course of the year. So overall, looking at our expenses, again, pretty flat. This is about a $28,000 reduction from our January budget. So some of those reductions have translated into an increased transfer to capital projects at $500,000. Our IT director will be presenting a little later on a plan for purchasing additional Chromebooks and laptops. Some of that will come out of these additional funds. So again, looking at our general fund graphically, you can see the largest expenditure for the district is salaries and benefits. That represents generally over 80% of our operating costs, so pretty significant. So we started the year with a beginning fund balance of $19,550,000. This amendment proposes revenues totaling $50,445,000, expenses of $50,383,000, resulting in a net income of $61,792. We have various restrictions on our fund balance for some non-spendable items, our contingency, assigned items, MTSS for one, leaving $12,430,000 in unassigned fund balance that's available for use. Moving on to food service. Sorry, just give me 1 second to catch up to my notes. Terrible about flipping pages. Okay, looking at our food service, this is basically a nonprofit fund. We currently have a universal free meal program that's funded by the state of Michigan, largely supplemented with federal revenues. Overall, we're proposing a little over 5% increase to our revenues with this amendment, bringing it to $2,014,000. Some of that is a little bit of a change to our local revenues. We collect revenues from non-student users, adults who purchase lunch through the district. We also have contracts with other organizations that we collect local revenues through. So this is basically just a reflection of where we feel we are today with the utilization of meals throughout the course of the year, and where we think the next couple of months are going to be. It's been a very popular program amongst the students to utilize the Universal Free Meal Program. Looking at the expense side, slight change overall. We're looking at an increase to expenses of 1.6%, $32,879 increase. One of the largest changes is to capital outlay. That's a $20,000 increase for some purchases that the board had previously authorized that just had not been reflected yet in the budget. Cafeteria tables, I believe, at Brave Barrett, and the board had authorized a cooler for Bothwell. So this just reflects that in the budget. So we started the year in the lunch fund with a $510,000 balance. We have revenues totaling $2,014,000, expenditures of $2,035,000, resulting in a net loss of $21,679 in the lunch fund, and projected ending fund balance of $488,026. So looking at the next several funds, we have our 2016 debt retirement fund, our capital projects fund, and our sinking fund coming up. So no changes right now to the debt fund. All that fund does is collect property taxes to satisfy the annual payment on our 2016 bond. So that's basically an in and an out. We collect the revenue, we pay the bond payment. There's two payments. The principal and interest are due in May, and then there's an interest payment due in November. So at this point, we're not proposing any changes. So we started the year with a $140,000 fund balance in our debt fund. We had collected revenues of $601,000, projected expenditures of $556,000, resulting in a net income of $44,965, and an ending fund balance of $185,626. Moving on to our capital projects fund. So our capital projects fund does not have a funding source. That is funded strictly by money allocated to the fund. So we're looking at an 11% increase overall to the capital projects fund, $52,000 increase. Looking at local revenues, of that $119,960, I just want to point out that about $65,000 of that local revenue increase is due to one item, and that was a rebate that we were able to capture on the new boilers that were installed at Cherry Creek and Superior Hills. So that was a $100,000 project that we were able to get almost a $65,000 rebate on. So about half that project cost was covered and reimbursed the capital projects fund. I just want to point that out. The other change to local revenues is just a change to where we feel our annualized investment earnings are going to be from June. Again, transfer in increased $500,000 to cover some of the items that we discussed later on this evening. So overall, an increase of $52,000 to capital projects. Did I talk expenses? I didn't. Expenditures, $567,000, about a 73% increase in capital projects. And again, there's going to be, the board had previously approved a Chromebook purchase, and we're also going to bring forward another purchase this evening. So we anticipate costs, and I don't want to steal our IT director's thunder, but we do anticipate costs going up in the near future. So we're going to advocate for moving some purchasing up to save a little cost. So we started the year with a fund balance of $5,953,000. We have revenues of $909,960, expenditures of $1,338,000, resulting in a net loss of $428,559, and a projected ending fund balance of capital projects of $5,525,000. Moving on to the sinking fund. Sinking fund does have a revenue source. It's a voter-approved millage, so we collect money each year from the taxpayers in order to fund infrastructure improvements throughout the district. Again, we had looked at the property taxes pretty hard in January, so we're not really proposing any big changes to our revenue today, other than a slight increase of $5,000, and again, that's based on annualized interest earnings. No proposed changes to our expenditures in the sinking fund. As the board may recall, 25-26, we really didn't plan to utilize the sinking fund because we had used it heavily in the prior year to fund the renovations of the science labs. And that was a pretty significant project. $1.5 to $2 million project that really utilized, the majority of the revenue from the sinking fund. So we were taking this year to build the sinking fund back up, and we're starting to go out on bids now for projects that the sinking fund will cover this summer. So this was an intentional buildup of income in the sinking fund. So overall, we're looking at a net income of about $1,270,000. Started with a balance of $612,000, revenues of almost $1.4 billion, expenditures of $107,000. That will most likely change come year end as we identify what those projects are and how much work to be done before the end of June. But again, at $1.27 billion net income, projected ending fund balance of $1,884,000. And the last fund to go over is our private purpose trust fund. Slight decrease in revenue, again, attributable to our annualized income. I think we'll be a little bit down from where we were originally estimating. So a slight change there, $1,000, 0.8%. And a slight increase to our expenditures of about $4,500 based on historical averages of scholarships that have been paid out. The majority of these scholarships get paid out of this fund in May. So we just bumped that up a little bit based on historical averages. So overall, we're looking at a change of reduction of $5,500 from where we were in the January budget amendment. So private purpose trust, we started the year with $309,000 in fund balance, revenues of $124,500, projected expenditures of $122,500, resulting in a net income of $2,000 and an ending fund balance projected to be $311,602. And the floor is open for questions. And hearing none. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Jim. Can you cover real quick the line items under other, under expenditures? You don't have to go into numbers or anything, but just with some of those bigger items under that category of other.
Are we in the general fund, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So that'd be two. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we're on this slide. Is there a specific? Oh, we're on that one.
Sorry, I can't. It's hard to turn around.
Okay. I'm sorry. Here on the other sheet. Oh, just on this one. You know, off the top of my head, that is a great question. And there's $1.5 billion that rolls into the other category. If you give me a few minutes, I can get you an answer. Off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what's rolling into that particular line item, but I can get an answer for you.
Okay, no worries, thank you. Also, who's responsible for the kudos for the rebate and the boiler project?
I won't take credit, but somebody from Semco reached out to me. They knew me from college years and told me about this program that we might be eligible for because they had heard about some of the mechanical upgrades we had made. And it took some work. I will say I give credit to Mr. Lampman and Mr. Spicek. Is it Spicek. And it took some work to get the information they needed, but that was a significant rebate. And with the potential projects that have been identified through this bond proposal, I'm hopeful that there might be opportunities in the future to realize additional rebates.
Last quick question on food service for the universal free lunch. That's through the end of this school year. We don't know what the future may hold, or is there what that looks like?
So it was included in the budget that the governor put out, but I have not yet seen the budgets from the House or the state and whether that would be included or not. As you may recall, we went into October not knowing whether or not there was going to be a universal free meal program last fall. So I wish I had a crystal ball to predict that, but I believe the governor is a supporter of it. What the House and the Senate decide to do in their budgets and what happens when they reconcile those three budgets together, I can't begin to predict.
I can say that there is a push to get it codified into law so that it will just be a part of the budget, so that if future governors were to come in and try to not fund it, that it would be more difficult for that to happen. That was one thing that was mentioned at my MASB meeting during the legislative update. So that is something that they are looking at, codifying that into law, so it'll just be, this is what it is.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I know a lot of, you mentioned it's a utilized program, and so, I just thought if we had the opportunity to share, I'm great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it has been a popular program. So I'm sure there are a lot of families that would love to see that program continue into the future. Unfortunately, I hope there's not going to be a long contracted, I don't want to say battle, but, budget discussion this summer amongst the state legislators and the governor. I was at a legislative meeting not too long ago where the legislators were saying there's not a whole lot of appetite to have a long protracted budget discussion this summer. So we'll see what happens. But, again, it's been a somewhat unusual year because normally by October we have some sense of what our funding is going to be, and it makes it a lot easier to budget. This year, because of the lateness of the state budget being adopted, and then Michigan Department of Education having to figure out what got adopted and how it's going to be implemented and rolled out, it's just pushed the whole timeline back.
So that was actually a question I had, and I don't need examples, but I'm wondering if you guys read the tea leaves, either you or Superintendent Sedgwick or you at those meetings, you're feeling like we're not going to be quite as in battle this summer as figuring out budgets and things like that. And did just whisper in my ear, it's an election year, which I'm sure does have some stuff.
Yeah, it's an election year and it's still a divided government. So I would be certainly cautious to be overly optimistic that it's going to go smoothly.
Yeah, I hope for a smooth process for the state in rolling out 26-27 budget, but there's a lot of factors at play: divided government, an election year. So we'll see what happens.
Are the expenditures in the trust budget determined by the number of scholarship recipients, and is there a set amount? That's how you figure what the budget would be, or is there?
There's a litany of different scholarships available, and in some years they get awarded, some years they don't. It all depends on who applies and how many get awarded out. So it varies a little bit from year to year. And we just took a look at the last couple of years and we felt that it was a good time to make a change in the budget in anticipation of what we may pay out come May. So, we're not the ones deciding that. We're the fiduciary agent for a lot of these scholarships, so that's not determined by us. We just hold the money and we pay it out on behalf of others. So So I'm not involved in the decision-making process as to how those get awarded and who they go to. So it was more for us to have a little bit more of an accurate budget number if we looked at kind of the historical trend.
There's generally criteria set up by whoever the benefactor was for those scholarships. I remember serving on that committee when I was a teacher at the high school, and sometimes you don't have students that applied or they don't meet the criteria, and there's a number of scholarships that we host, if you will, as a fiduciary, but then there's quite a few more that the Maps Ed Foundation actually oversees. And when you hear in a couple months, when we have our local scholarship ceremony, you'll hear which students have earned which scholarships and generally a little bit about what the criteria was, or at least you could look into that information based on that program.
Thank you.
Looks like that's all the questions.
Any further questions? No.
Thank you. And I will follow up, Mr. Zadunek, with getting a breakdown of that line item for you, and on the whole board, actually. So, thank you.
Next up is our technology director, Ellie Gladwell, to provide a little bit on our technology plan.
Thank you. So in your report,
I'm sorry, I turned it off.
okay, how about now? Much better. Cool. So in your board packet is a proposal for some laptop and Chromebook purchases for the 2026-2027 school year. This proposal is coming to you a little earlier than it would be normally, as Jim alluded to. The bid contracts for technology does come or ends at the end of March. The new contracts for starting in April are significantly higher, 40 to 60% higher, in fact, per device. So we are looking to make these purchases a little bit sooner than we would normally. This year we are looking to order 60 staff laptops. This will begin a 5-year replacement cycle for staff laptops, as well as 500 student Chromebooks, which will continue our normal replacement cycle for the Chromebooks. The total cost for the 60 laptops, we are looking at about $33,673.80. For the Chromebooks, we are looking at $119,050 for a total of $152,723.80. Any questions?
Ms. Gladwell, could you quickly just highlight the replacement plan for the Chromebooks? I know you mentioned a 5-year replacement plan for the staff laptops, assuming you're starting with the oldest laptops and then moving towards, right, the newest ones. But what about, can you quickly articulate the Chromebook replacement plan?
Absolutely. So for the Chromebooks, we buy 500. This covers brand new Chromebooks for every 6th grader, who will then keep that Chromebook through their senior year. Chromebooks have about an 8-year lifespan for Google. Usually it ends up being longer because they continue updating them after that, but that gets them through that 7 years, no problem. And then we also replace 1 grade at each elementary school every year, rotating each grade. This year would be 4th grade.
And because of the questions I get, perhaps for parents that are concerned about investing more in that Chromebook that it might be worth, they always have the option of replacing the Chromebook?
That is correct. We do keep some spares on hand, and if a Chromebook is in a state that a family would like a new Chromebook, we can absolutely provide that for them.
Thank you.
Question, is there an Apple option for the staff?
There is not an Apple option, partially because the price difference is so significant.
And is software covered irrespectively, or do we just have like a one big license that everybody's covered under?
So for software, depends a little bit on what software, but like for Microsoft, we pay an annual fee for that. For Adobe, and that annual fee, and that's enough license for all staff members.
So the cost is just for the laptop and that doesn't take into effect the software?
Correct. This is just for the laptop and a 3-year warranty for the laptop.
Thank you.
Again, sorry, it's worth mentioning that as much as device replacement is great, a larger scale technology improvement would be possible were the bond proposal to be approved by voters on May 5th.
Nice plug.
If there's no other questions, thank you very much, Ms. Gladwell.
Thank you.
Okay, a quick facilities update for our May 2026 bond proposal. Some key talking points you've likely heard me expound in the community. The pillars of this proposal: safety, infrastructure, and programming, particularly ensuring our facilities are future ready for the students. And this particular proposal impacts every building and every student. It's a district-wide solution. Every MAPS facility has prioritized projects in this proposal impacting academics, athletics, and the arts, updating science labs and buildings besides MSHS, music, art rooms, and athletic facilities, just to name a few. Workforce readiness and talent pipeline improvements, especially those related to CTE, that's career and technical education. Operational efficiency and fiscal responsibility. Addressing infrastructure now prevents more expensive reactive emergency repairs later, some of which are highlighted in the budget proposal that you just heard. A reminder that MAPS maintains one of the lowest millage rates in the region, currently at 1.31 mils, far lower than almost all of our neighbors and the state average, which is about 4.55. This proposal is a 1.55 mil increase added to that 1.31 that we currently levy. That's about 2.86, still lower than some of our neighbors, many of our neighbors, and certainly the state average again, which is 4.5. We've been transparent, committed to remaining that way. We've offered multiple public forums, and of course, detailed project lists and financial impact calculators are available on our website, www.mapsnet.org/2026 bond. Just a little bit on voting, which, by the way, could include Northern students if you follow the correct steps, which I'm about to outline. With the election approaching on Tuesday, May 5th, we're entering the most critical window for voter participation. March 26th, which is this Thursday, absentee ballots become available. Residents can request and vote via absentee ballot through their municipal clerk or online at www.michigan.gov/vote. April 25th through May 3rd, in-person absentee voting is available at your municipal clerk offices. From April 30th through May 2nd, there's early voting available from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Peter White Public Library. And then of course, on May 5th is the election. So, any questions on the proposal? The board is probably tired of me talking about the proposal, so I'm going to let that go. And the last thing I want to touch on under other is a roof project, speaking of facility improvements. And Mr. Isaac Roberts from GEI, who works as our owner's rep, will come and tell us a little bit about that proposal.
Yeah, so in your packet you have a proposal from Bell Roofing for roof replacement at Marquette Senior High School and the auxiliary services bus garage, as well as the maintenance facility by the football field. So we solicited for bids. We received one bid from Bell Roofing. It does have an adder for an alternate roof drain for the canopy to discharge below ground. Thinking that's probably a best choice to improve safety during freeze-thaw cycles. And it does include a 5% contingency for any unforeseen instances during construction.
Any questions for Mr. Roberts?
A personal note, I would like to say thank you for whoever went to look at that alternative drain for the canopy, because that has been an issue since I was in school at Marquette. So, thank you.
There's currently an east trough that just kind of ends
Yeah.
at the one side of the canopy and then flows or lands on our sidewalk where sometimes it hits the drain. If it's too cold, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So we certainly, it's taken some extra investment, are going to make sure that's a safer solution than what currently is in place. That is all I have for the superintendent report. Thank you, Mr. Roberts, and thank you, board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on to approving the consent agenda, I am going to pass the gavel to Mr. Zadunik. He's going to finish up the meeting because I have to run to another meeting.
Okay, I believe our next item will be to look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All right, it looks like we have a motion and support. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Consent agenda, items A, B, and C. Moving on to the student school board representatives report.
For academics, this is our last week of school before spring break, and the quarter ends this Friday. After spring break, standardized testing begins for freshmen through juniors. Last Wednesday, Spanish 3 and AP Spanish classes participated in Spanish Day at NMU, where students performed songs, skits, and show and tells. Additionally, a handful of students will be participating in both HOSA and Science Olympiad states in April. For athletics, our spring sports have started practicing, and our girls varsity softball team had a tournament at the Dome this past weekend and won all their games.
Okay, for the arts, MSHS is hosting Spotlight on the Arts tomorrow starting at 6:30 p.m. in the gym. And then a small group of MSHS chorale students are putting on a short musical production called Painless, and English classes and other classes are invited to view this Wednesday. And then some things coming up that Student Council has been working on. This week, Student Council and the administration worked together to put on a spring break dress-up week to bring up school spirit before going into spring break. And then after spring break is Powder Puff Volleyball, where junior boys will play the senior boys, and practice will begin after spring break, and the game is scheduled, but I do not have that date. Mr. Engels might have that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the updates and reports. Moving on to the next item, are comments from the public. I don't see any flips up here for comments from the public, so that being covered, we'll move on to new business item A, which is considering the amendment to the 2025-2026 budget. Is there any discussion on the budget prior to moving forward? Questions? Hearing none, I will look for a motion to consider the amendment to the 2025-2026 budget.
I move that we accept the amended budget as presented for 2025-2026.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Smith and support from Mrs. Klipp. Any additional questions, comments? All right, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to consider the amendment budget proposal update. Moving on to the second item, to consider the approval of laptop and Chromebook purchases as recommended.
Any questions or comments prior to moving forward? The requisite 3 or 5 seconds wait time or something. So hearing none, looking for a motion to consider the approval of laptop and Chromebook purchases as recommended.
I'll make a motion that we approve the laptop and Chromebook purchases as recommended.
Support.
All right, I have a motion from Mrs. Maddox-Smith and support from Smith, sorry.
Smith.
But yes. Any additional conversations, questions? Hearing none, I will, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item C, consider awarding the Market Senior High School and Auxiliary Services Bus Garage roof replacement to Bell Roofing Company as recommended. Any questions? Hearing no questions, I will look for a motion to consider awarding the Marquette Senior High School and Auxiliary Services Bus Garage roof replacement to Bell Roofing Company as recommended.
I move that we accept the proposal for the roof project as presented.
Support.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Smith and support from Mrs. Maddox-Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Although any opposed? None, motion passes. All right, moving right along to board member comments. Comments?
Thank you. Thank you to our speakers today, Mr. Lampman, Ms. Gladwell, and Mr. Roberts. You guys all have a civics project or something? What a crazy meeting to come to, the budget meeting. It's so fun. A lot of folks do ask about, what is the school doing with their money? And Mr. Lampman just explained it in great detail. So if anybody has questions, they should be directed to this YouTube broadcast. As Mr. Cedric pointed out, there is a bond proposal. As a board member, I can't tell you which way to vote, but you should vote on May 5th, whichever way you see fit, and educate yourself on the bond. And thank you to Ellen and Eleanor for speaking. I hope you have a wonderful spring break.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Maddox-Smith.
Definitely ditto to Mrs. Thomas here. I hope that all of our NMU students that are here will consider voting. Just an incredible way to exercise your privilege. Ellie, I just want to say thank you for being so proactive on the laptop Chromebook. That's prices going up 40 to 60%. Getting ahead of that curve is, that's really impactful to the district. So thank you so much. And Mr. Lamb, thank you for disseminating all of that budget information. I agree, it should be like a YouTube mandatory tutorial now. It's just so much information. We're so lucky to have you to disseminate that to us. Our student reps, as always, I love your presentations. I love hearing what's going on. I mean, after all, that's why we're here, is for you guys. So thank you so much. Thanks for everybody's input and hard work.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Cliff.
We just hope everyone has a really good spring break and they rest, maybe get tan, sit on the beach, something fun. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Smith?
A couple of comments. First, I'd like to echo the kudos to Ms. Gladwell and the technology proposal, the laptops, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. She has spent a lot of time putting together a plan that I think the district can be proud of, that's going to carry us not only through this year, but for subsequent years. And that's often missing, and I just want to thank you for all your work in putting that together. Likewise, I think we owe a debt of thanks to a number of our staff that were involved in snow removal and getting the school ready so that students could come back. That was a significant storm. We don't have to tell people that That was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But the fact that the MAP staff worked in concert with city staff to get the roads cleared so that our plows could do what they need to do to get students safely to and from school, that's no small task, and I just would like to make sure that they get recognized as part of this. And also to the students, you have almost the full school year behind you. I hope you have a safe break and come back and finish strong, and we'll look forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Thank you. I just appreciate nobody making me use the gavel. Put that aside. Moving on to board president's comments. She is not here, so we'll move on to other announcements and other meetings. March 27th, 2026 is the end of the third quarter. March 30th through April 6th, speaking of that spring break, is our spring break, and there will be no school. Our next board meeting will be April 20th, 2026, for a regular board meeting, 5:30 p.m. at the Sandy Knoll Gym. We'll look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn from Mrs. Thomas and support from Mrs. Clip. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Have a good night, everyone.